Hai has already regarded that void mind crystal as his own. He has this confidence and the qualification. After all, as the Star Master of Green Hills Star, as long as Xianxia was still in Green Hills Star, he would never escape his control. When the time comes, he will find this kid to bring the void mind crystal over, give him some rewards, and everyone is happy. If he wants to, Luo Hai feels that he can even accept him as a disciple. This is a great honor, a chance that no one else can ask for. For many years, Luo Hai has never been so excited, but at this moment, he almost can't help himself. If it hadn't been for fear of the others' Void King realm on the stone pavilion saw some flaws, he would have already laughed. Master Luo Hai, the blood prison will be closed in 10 days, right? The old woman surnamed Lei suddenly asked. Luo Hai nodded when he heard the words, it's really only 10 days, when the domain power in the blood prison will fully burst, those little guys have to quit. I don't know how they gained this time. By the way, is the kid with the second order void return stage safe and sound? When she asked about Xianxia, everyone opened their eyes and looked at Luo Hai, apparently paying attention to Xianxia's life and death. No problem, I see that he can walk out alive, you don't have to worry about his safety. Well, as long as he can walk out alive, the old lady will immediately invite him to join the Sword Union. The old woman was overjoyed. This kid has a boundless future. Although there have always been a second-order void return stage that do not know the heights of the sky and the earth have entered the blood prison, no one can survive, not even survive for a few days in it. If he can achieve this, then the future must be bright. The old man can't wait to meet this kid. I really want to know what his background is. Yes, looking at his performance, there must be a place for him in the future star territory. Everyone, obviously all spoke highly of Xianxia, and Luo Hai smiled. Without interrupting, only he understood that Xianxia was better than everyone thought. In the Monster Mountain Cave, Xianxia was fascinated, immersed in the magical sentiment, unaware of the passage of time. He frowned leisurely, opened his eyes. He noticed that the atmosphere in the blood prison had faintly changed, and there was a trace of domain power flowing over here in Monster Mountain. Before coming here, Chui had said that once the aura in the blood prison changed, he had to leave immediately. Otherwise, there will be no place for burial. When this kind of change occurs, within 5 days, the entire blood prison will become a forbidden place that no one can step on, full of chaotic domains, and it will not subside again until 1,000 years later. It's time to leave. He slowly got up and inspected his gains, and smiled. He felt that his understanding of the Shi was much clearer, and he was only one step away from big accomplishment. This step seemed very close, but it seems like a thin barrier is blocking his perception of the Shi. But it's not a big deal. Having absorbed the soul energy of the mad crocodile monster king, as long as he thoroughly understands and comprehends it, it's not difficult for his Shi to achieve the big accomplishment. Moreover, when he is promoted to the Void King realm in the future, forming his own domain will also be easy. This kind of benefit Xianxia can't enjoy now, only when the strength reaches the Void King realm can it be realized. He walked out of the cave, discerned the direction, his figure flickered, turned into an electric light, and quickly disappeared. 2 days later, in a valley, Xianxia appeared leisurely. Boy, you are here. A figure suddenly flashed from the side and fell in front of Xianxia, looking at him with a smile. Senior Bahi. Xianxia gently nodded at him. I thought you kid was dead. I haven't heard from you. Yu Sheng didn't know which corner he came out of, greeted Xianxia with a grin, and looked at him up and down 3 times. He seemed to want to see if he lacked arms or legs. Xianxia. Shan Qingluo smiled like a flower, and fell directly beside him, holding his arm. Shui Ying appeared immediately after Shan Qingluo, nodded faintly to Xianxia, without much expression. Everyone is all here. Xianxia smiled slightly. Has the things the foster mother asked for succeeded? Yu Sheng walked 3 feet in front of Xianxia and asked in a buzzing voice. Xianxia stretched his hand on the space ring, took out a round crystal-like object, and threw it towards Yu Sheng. Yu Shang caught it nervously, and carefully examined it in the palm of his hand. In an instant, everyone's eyes were attracted by the seemingly innocent crystal, and everyone's eyes were extremely hot. This is Void Mind Crystal? Bah, he swallowed his saliva, staring at Void Mind Crystal without blinking. Even the most indifferent Shui Ying's breathing was a little quicker. Is this fake? Yu Shang looked up at Yang Kai. What do you think? Yang Kai sneered. It's not like a fake. Yu Shang shook his head, saying like this, quickly took a jade box from the space ring, carefully put the void mind crystal into it, and carefully put it away, then looked up at Yang Kai with a complex expression. The kid is refreshing enough. This is the second half of the secret technique given to you by your mother-in-law. You take it. As he spoke, he threw something that looked like an ancient book at Yang Kai. Yang Kai took it, turned it over and reviewed it. After confirming that there was no problem, he nodded and said, even if the task assigned by Senior Chui is completed, it has nothing to do with me after it is handed over to you. Don't worry. Yu Shang smiled. There are so many of us, and we are not afraid that we will lose it. Yang Kai didn't say any more, turned to look at Shan Qingluo, and whispered, you come with me, I have something to say to you. Okay. Shan Qingluo nodded and followed Yang Kai to a short distance away. As if she had realized something, Shan Qingluo's mood suddenly became a little depressed. On the gravel pile, there is desolation and no emotion at all. Yang Kai and Shan Qingluo stared at each other, and there was an atmosphere of reluctance that permeated them. After a long time, Yang Kai sighed and asked, I ran into some guys before, and they seemed to be in conflict with you. Some guys said he hurt you. How was the injury? It's not a problem, it was just a shock from his Saint Yuan, not even a minor injury. Shan Qingluo slowly shook her head. Are those guys dead? Since they met Yang Kai. It's strange to be alive. Yep. You are much better than me now. When I was in Grey Cloud Evil Land, I protected you. Shan Qingluo chuckled lightly. It's only been a few years. The young man who had just emerged back then has already stepped in front of her, and this is still under the circumstance that she bears the origin power of the heavenly moon demon spider. That year, it was very good. Yang Kai's eyes showed a reminiscence to the past, and his smile became ambiguous. Shan Qingluo clearly understood what he was referring to, and gave him a look of affection. Are you going back to Monster Emperor Star? Yang Kai asked suddenly. Foster mother is kind to me. I can't just leave like this. Shan Qingluo's expression was sad. Furthermore, I don't want to drag you down in the future. I am half a monster race now. Monster Emperor Star is the most suitable place for me to cultivate. If I leave with you, it will only become a burden to you in the future. I don't want to do this. Yang Kai put too much pressure on her. If she wants to stay together with this man, she can't covet the temporary joy. Shan Qingluo understood better than anyone else. Yang Kai nodded slightly, expressing understanding. He had already thought of these things, so hearing Shan Qingluo said it right now, he was not surprised at all. What about you? Are you leaving? Yes. Yang Kai smiled slightly. I have brought people from the central capital and Tongxuan continent. I will take them to a cultivation star called Shadowed Star, which is very remote. If there is a chance, I will come to Monster Emperor Star to see you again. Shan Qingluo bit her red lips, her fists clenched tightly, and misty water vapor was printed in her beautiful eyes. She faintly said, after saying goodbye back then, 30 years have passed by. I don't know when I will see you again after saying goodbye today. Yang Kai reached out with his big hand, held her small hand, embraced her, and put her hand on his heart. Shan Qingluo looked up. The beautiful eyes became brighter and bloomed with amazing brilliance. She blushed, holding Yang Kai's hand, and also placed his hand on her heart. You have me in your heart. I have you in my heart, and both of them know well, so there is no need to say more. She stood up with he tiptoed, closed her eyes tightly, her long eyelashes trembling, and she printed her red lips towards Yang Kai. Young people, not far away, bah, he sighed, standing there with his hands on his back, looking up at the sky. It looks like this elder brother is determined. Yu Shang smiled silly, winking at Shui Ying on the side. Shui Ying's face was also red to the neck, lowered her head, looking at the ground, as if trying to find an ant from the ground. Breathing rapidly, Jiang Kai's blood rolled, tasting Shan Qingluo's sweetness and beauty. Although the seductive queen seemed to be full of charm that could put all sentient beings upside down, this kind of thing is the first time, and it was inevitable that some were not opponents. Soon, Shan Qingluo threw away her defenses, and was unable to stand up. The whole person was like falling into the clouds, up and down, as if her body was not her own. Leisurely, Yang Kai suddenly screamed, covering his mouth with his hand. Shan Qingluo took the opportunity to get out of his clutches and withdrew a few steps back. Her face remained unsettled, gritted her teeth and looked at Yang Kai. "Why are you biting me?" Yang Kai was aggrieved to death. "Leave something for you to remember, lest you will forget me after a long time." Shan Qingluo giggled, smiled, tears fell, and whispered, "You go quickly. If you don't go quickly, I'm afraid I don't want you to leave." She seemed to have made an extremely difficult decision, and her body trembled slightly. Yang Kai licked his lips and nodded, "Then take care of yourself." After speaking, he took out a space ring and handed it to Shan Qingluo. "You take this well, and don't tell anyone." "What's inside?" Shan Qingluo looked at him suspiciously. "You'll know after a while." Yang Kai grinned and didn't point it out. He glanced at the location of Ba He and the others, and said loudly, "You guys should go quickly too, don't wait for Shui Lian and others to come." When the words fell, space force enveloped Yang Kai, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Shan Qingluo opened her mouth, but in the end she shouted nothing. To be continued.